Good morning and welcome to Saturday special of Dr. Lamba's Awakening Call. I clearly remember it was the month of October 1955 and the famous scholar, philosopher Bertrand Russell had visited India. I happened to get a chance. I was a young kid, very young, in my middle school, and I simply walked in the guest house where he was staying. It was early morning, but he was so genial and nice. We had a talk. And then, in a fit of my enthusiasm, we started discussing. And that person with the scintillating wit responded. And after we had discussed Kierkegaard, existential philosophy, he asked me a simple question: have you read Vedas and Upanishads? I said, no. He says, why not? These are the crux, not only of the Indian philosophy, but of the whole philosophy of cosmos. And I still remember he said, do you know, by the way, that Upanishads are the part of Vedas? And this was something new to me. I had heard of four Vedas and 200 Upanishads. And then he told me that the four Vedas, Rig, Yajur, Sam, Athar, are divided into four parts further, each Veda. Samhita, Brahma, Aryanka, and Upanishad. And Upanishad form the latest part of Veda. And since is the latest part of Veda, it's the base of philosophy called Vedanta, which was later on promoted and promulgated by Vivekananda and Guru Gobind Singh before that. The one thing more he told me was that don't read Vedas as a part of the spiritual thing, but read them as a philosophical concept. They reflect the practical wisdom based on the reflection of life and not as religious treatises. The people who consider Vedas as religious treatises are doing an injustice to Veda because they are not about sterile devotion to God and blind beliefs. Vedic devotion and belief stands on practical wisdom of cosmos, cosmic, and human reality. And Upanishads, though the end of the Vedas, do not reflect the reality as it is. They reflect the intellectual capacity about expressing the philosophical ideas about reality as is grasped by the human intellect. In other words, Upanishads form or a step from the experimentally reflected reality towards intellectual reflected reality. And that's what made me interested, and then I started my study. I was engrossed in Vedas, Shastras, Upanishads, but I studied them as intellectual treatises. And I found the beauty and the gravity and the profundity in them was extreme. Of course, it is camouflaged as spirituality, but it's nothing like that. It's not at all religious, it's absolutely Catholic and intellectual. Look, talking of Mandukya Upanishad, Mandukya Upanishad is the shortest of all the Upanishads and is a part of Atharvaveda. It is number 6 in the Mutika section of 108 Upanishads. Another thing, it's in prose. It's not written in poetry. And there are 12 terse, very concise, very pithy statements and is associated with Rigveda school of scholars. Discusses the letter syllable Om and presents four theories of consciousness and research existence and nature of self. Now imagine 600 years BC, not 6 centuries BC, 600 years. It was written, 6,000 years before Christ, it was written. And it is even today the crux of psychology and psychiatry, because the states of consciousness, the four stages described herein, are now being proved to be correct and justified. That means something 8,000 years back had been developed intellectually by those philosophers. Now, Mandukya Upanishad is notable for having been recommended in the Muksita Upanishad through two central characters in Ramayana. Are you aware of that? And they are Ram himself. As a matter of fact, that makes Upanishad alone as a sufficient ground for getting moksha. Now, again, here comes the religious part. But moksha also means relief from the pain of the world and living with the reality. The text is notable for its inspiring classic for the Vedanta school of Hinduism, and is, as a matter of fact, Mandukya Upanishad's most quoted text in philosophical relationship between Hinduism and Buddhism. Now, let me again emphasize that Buddhism is not a religion related with idol worship, but is only concerned with the soul. Man means mind. Dukkha means distress, mandukya, the distress of the mind. Pure psychology. We always say that mind is more potent than everything. And with the help of mindfulness and using mind as a tool, you can overcome everything. And that's exactly what Mandukya Upanishad is about. As a matter of fact, lack of proper understanding of the concepts of mind causes distress. So, Mandukya, the distress of the mind, how to get over that. Another root for the name is literally a Vedic school, Mandukya. Manduk is Vedic school, means a teacher. I read the translation of Manduk Upanishad by Paul Deussen, and he says that etymologically the roots of Mandukya Upanishad are a half lost school of Rig Veda, and basically it's about the theory of semi-vowels discussed in Atriya Aranika of Rig Veda. So, though it's a part of Atharva Veda, it derives its roots from Rig Veda. So, there is an organic unity in them. In the Hindu philosophy, I'm not talking of religion, Mandukya is a very important document, particularly is being the root of Advaita Vedanta philosophy, study of mind, and it very tersely represents several central doctrines, namely, the universe is Brahm, cosmos. You can change the name, you can change the nomenclature. The self exists, and that is Brahm. So the importance is on the mind and on the self. Now, I come to the basic part of this, and that is the four states of consciousness that are in Mandukya Upanishad. And that is what is most important. Those four stages of and as I said earlier, those stages of consciousness were further explored by Carl Jung and Freud. And then the schools carried on, the further. First is Om in Mandukya Upanishad. As a matter of fact, many Upanishads discuss Om, but Mandukya Upanishad opens by declare Om is a syllable of the whole word. Thereafter, it presents various explanations and theories on its meaning and significance. And the whole discussion is built on a structure of four fourfold. derived from A, U, M plus silence for without an element. So three are elements, the fourth is void, no element, black hole, vacuum. And Om is for all states of time. Now, the verse 1 of Mandukya Upanishad says, the Upanishad states that the time is threefold, the past, the present, and the future. And these three are Om. The fourth dimension of the time transcends time. So the past, present, future, and the fourth is transcending the time, and that too is a part of Om. Verse 2 goes on to say that everything is Brahm, and Brahm is a self, and this self is fourfold, the four stages of consciousness. In the verse 5 to 6, Mandukya Upanishad enumerates these four consciousness. They are wakefulness when you're awake, fully conscious of what you're doing. Then you go lie down, you dream, the state of dream. Even that is a reality. Third is deep sleep. You are no longer dreaming, you are fully asleep, but that's a great state. And the fourth is the most important. That is the state where you are neither dreaming the void, nobody knows about it, but that permeates the self. And that is the subconscious basically. In the fourth stage of void, it's your subconscious which comes into foreplay. In verse 9 to 12, Mandukya Upanishad enumerates four etymological roots of Om. The first element of Om, which is from Apti, obtaining or reaching, or from Adimata, being the first. The second element is you, which is from Utskara, exaltation. You have a feeling of exaltation. And the third is Menati. Fourth is without element, without development, beyond expanse of the universe. In this way, the Upanishads are able to understand the consciousness of the mind, wakefulness to dream to deep sleep to unconscious, and the entire range of life experience can be encompassed in the sound of Om in elaborating the mystery of Brahma in 12 short verses. And it's done beautifully by juxtaposing the four states of consciousness with the syllable Om. Om is a connecting link in the four stages, the states of the consciousness. And this alludes to the pranav sound, the premial sound of Om. It corresponds with each of these states, as I said earlier. The opening aphorism of the Upanishad sets the tone for an inquiry into the cause of material temporal world. Now here comes again, nothing religious about it. It is a connection between the material world and the temporal world. The temporal world is basically of the unconscious, the self cut away from the dross and the veneer of materialism. So while establishing Om as the sonic measure of universe, Mandukya equates it with a four-footed self. Now, emphasis is always on the mind and self. It doesn't say praying helps you. It doesn't say go to a deity and pray. It doesn't say anything. And as a matter of fact, I say it's a misnomer to term it as a religious treatise. So basically the stages are Atma, the Jagrat state, the waking state, the Swapan state, the dream state, and the Shupati, the sleep state, and Turiya, the last, the void, they call the transcendental state. And this state, basically, where all of us are alive to the body and to the visible world. But we are unaware and we respond to the eternal, we go about our daily life. So this is basically the whole concept that you are living and yet While doing the material things, your self remains detached. So it goes further. He says, while daily life operating through 7 limbs and 19 mouths. 7 limbs are 5 Junandris, 5 Karmandri, 5 Pran, 4 inner faculties of Manas, Buddhi, Achmukya, and Chit. Now, this Manas, mankind, Buddhi, intellect, Ashkama, the self, and Chit, thinking process. Then the second aspect of self is Tajasa, the dream consciousness, which is basically internalizing the external thoughts. The mind creates an entire world of its own and comes alive in the same intensity as the wakeful stages. Mandukya refers to the fact that mind is extremely important in 2 stages, waking state and the dream state. And when the mind withdraws, you find you are in deep state, Shushpati. This is where the external and the subtle movements of the mind induce a happiness greater than one obtained through all the senses. So when you're deep asleep, you're fully composed, calm, and there's no pressure on the mind. And that is the state of Shushpati, deep sleep, slumber, all passions, fantasies. And Manduk actually refers the seeker to refine his consciousness in a way to ensure that he can summon up these things. And Turiya is the last stage of consciousness, wherein thought itself is found its source and God absorbed in it. The knower and the known becomes one. The seeker and the sought is one identity. And the Turiya state of pure consciousness then resonates with Om, the primordial sound of silence. Now, as I said earlier, Om has 4 stages, A, U, M, and then the silence. Turiya stage is of the silence, is deep contemplation. And is as I said, for the waking state, U for the dream state, M for the sleep state, and the 4th stage is the sound itself, the totality. And from that totality comes the fourth, the frequency with the primal energy resonates. And that is where you are absorbed. Now, one thing great in epic Ramayana, if you see, Ram and Hanuman are talking about this Upanishad. And they say that Mandukya, in fact, I'm quoting now, they call it the premium, the most important Upanishads out of all the 108 Upanishads. And this is in from Mutika Upanishad, page 26 to 29, and I have quoted, Mandukya alone is sufficient for the deliverance of the aspirant. If even then the knowledge lacks, then read the 10 Upanishads. He attains the goal if he reads the 32 Upanishads. If you just want deliverance while death is near, read 108 Upanishads, and Mandukya Upanishad is the crux. This is the gem. So the 4 stages of mind defined therein have presented a resolved a riddle which is even today being answered by the psychiatrist. If we understand Upanishads, then we understand their base, the Vedas. And what the philosophy is in Vedas and explicated further Upanishads is basically a philosophy that is being explored today and being confirmed today. Unfortunately, the continent of India, subcontinent as they call it, has forgotten about it, most of them. And it is being associated with the religiosity, which it has nothing to do with. Let's take it up as a discipline of mind, as a part of psychiatry and psychology and philosophy, and then understand the intricacies of mind. That is where this Upanishad comes to your aid. Thank you.